Well, the chairman of the Parades Commission, Peter Osborne, is with me now. Evening to you. Thanks very much for joining us on the programme, Mr Osborne. Sean Maskey, who's a resident, says the Parades Commission talks to him like he's a child and is overbearing. David Hume of the Orange Order says your deliberations are inconsistent and not transparent. That, I imagine, is not the kind of feedback you're looking for.
Well, it's not the sort of feedback that we generally get as well. We have a lot of meetings with an awful lot of people across the community divide, with people from political parties, all of the parties, from residents groups, with parade organisers and many other people, and I have to say that sort of feedback is extremely unusual. I certainly don't accept the criticism that the Commission in any way is overbearing. I think the last time I met with the Carrickhill residents in a meeting, the residents themselves refused to answer questions from the Commission, and I think they have to explore their attitude and how they have approached the Commission and dealt with those meetings themselves. But by and large, the meetings we have with residents and other people are very, very constructive meetings, including parade organisers, are constructive and useful meetings.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they are in the vast majority of cases, and that is always as it has been. The problem is the small number, relatively small number, of flashpoint parades where there are difficulties, and Sean Maskey is a spokesman for a group who have real difficulties with a particular parade which has caused problems in the past.
And I'll speak to Sean in different ways, I'm quite sure. The last time I was at a parade there, we had a useful conversation with people who were on the streets after the parade went past, and no doubt we'll talk to him again in Commission meetings itself. We want those Commission meetings to be as constructive and useful as they can, with everybody coming in to see us, including parade organisers and the loyal orders, and by and large they are. I have to say I don't recognise that description by Sean.
The difficulty is that that's how he sees it. The Orange Order doesn't see it in a better light, apparently, if we're to take David Hume's comments at face value. How do you square that circle? You can't just dismiss those criticisms.
No, I don't, and I have to say, I mean, I'm certainly very happy to sit down with David and talk about those issues. Unfortunately, it's not possible to do it. He may want to, and a lot of other people in the Orange Order may want to, and certainly we have many meetings with members from the Orange Order. I've had meetings in Orange Halls with members of the Orange Order and many other people as well. Again, very constructive and useful meetings. One of the things this Commission has tried to do is get out and meet people as much as possible. That's why we've had 17 public meetings in the last 24 months.
He thinks, of course, that your organisation should be replaced. I mean, so he's not really interested in talking to you.
Well, it's why we've gone up to the OFM, DFM committee, and why we've done so many other meetings over the last 2 years or so to try and reach out to people, to engage with them and explain the process.
Yes, but you need to be talking to people like David Hume.
Oh, and we certainly are talking to people from the Orange Order, and I'd be very happy to talk to David Hume and anybody else who wants to talk to us.
The big problem, of course, is that the Parades Commission makes determinations, sometimes controversial, very often not controversial. But it's up to the police to deal with the issues on the ground. It's up to the police to actually police those determinations. And very often, or certainly on too many occasions, perhaps many people think, the determinations have not been obeyed by those on whom they have been delivered.
Well, let's put that into a little bit of context. In the last year, 2012 to 2013, there were 4,500 parades in Northern Ireland. 2,500.
Yeah, but that's not the issue.
Well, let me make the point, because I think it is the issue, Mark, to be honest, in terms of what you've asked me. There are 2,500 loyal order or loyalist parades. That's a 3% increase in the last 12 months. 170-odd nationalist or Republican parades, many other civic events. Out of those 4,500, 220-odd were sensitive, and that includes the 50 in Portadown every Sunday. Exclude those, there's 170-odd sensitive parades out of 4,500.
There's no point really playing the numbers game. Yes, but we know that, and we've known that for a very long time with respect. We don't have time to go into the detail of the numbers game.
An important context, because the situation has improved over the last 15 years hugely, and it would be churlish for people not to recognise that part of the improvement is because of the work of the Commission.
Well, you think that, but obviously a lot of other people don't think that. The point is that there are other parades which are contested, determinations which have been contested, which lead to trouble, which have led to trouble, and which lead to headlines. I mean, if you take recent incidents as far as bands passing St Patrick's Church on Donegal Street, you have determined within the Parades Commission that there should be no music played, or that there should only be hymns. Those have been ignored by the bands concerned.
One of the things I say to many people coming in to see us, or when I go out to meet people, is that where we want to get to is exactly the same. We want to get to, I assume, parade organisers and loyal orders, as well as residents and politicians from all parties, want to get to a place where parades happen, where there is no contention surrounding them, and the Parades Commission doesn't have to be involved. Now, will we get to that place by people breaching determinations and breaking the law? No, we won't. Will we get to that place by people refusing to talk to people? No, we won't. Will we get to it by people refusing to engage with the police? No, we won't. Will we get to it by people using intemperate language that inflames situations? No, we won't. Those issues are issues for people on the ground who want to organise and participate in parades, who organise and participate in protests, for elected representatives and others. We'll do what we can to facilitate conversations, to facilitate dialogue and take fair and balanced decisions, which is what we do. And I have to say, I think privately, a large number, if not a vast majority of people in this community understand that the decisions the Commission take are fair and balanced and have added value and help to improve the parading situation immeasurably.
But we still have a problem with the other parades which are problematic, and that's why we're having this conversation tonight. We'll come on to the inflammatory language in just a moment or two, but just to be absolutely clear, where the Parades Commission makes a determination and where that is breached and the law is broken, should the police step in and arrest people? Does that then become a law and order issue where the police have not stepped up to the plate, in your view?
There are two consequences for that. One is, it is a breach of the law, and the police, like any breach of the law, need to follow that through in the way that the police should follow it.
Well, do you think that sometimes they could do more?
Well, the law is not a pick and mix buffet here. The law is the law, and people need to follow the law and adhere to the law.
And when they don't?
And when they don't, the police have a role to play along with the PPS.
And do they play that role properly in your view?
Well, that's an issue for the police.
No, but what do you think? I'm asking you what you think.
We don't get involved in that. And quite frankly, the police do a terrific job, given all of the issues and the complexities and the challenges that they have faced over the last number of months. And I'm not going to get into a position...
So are you happy with the way the police have policed these controversial parades in the past?
Well, that's an issue for the police, but certainly...
Sorry, I'm asking you if you're happy with how they policed them.
I have no criticism to make of how the police police parades.
You have no criticism to make?
I have no criticism to make of how the police police parades. When people breach determinations and break the law, that's a matter for the police to pursue. But the other issue is that we take that into consideration for future decisions, because when people break the law on parades in areas that are already sensitive, how can they expect any other consequence than for it to raise tensions in that area, for it to become an even more problematic parade, more sensitive parade, which involves the Commission more? Okay,
you used the phrase there, the need to avoid inflammatory comments and inflammatory language. I assume you are addressing those comments not least to politicians.
I certainly address them to politicians. I address them to every civic leader in this society as well. But I think the politicians have a particular role to use calming language and try and help resolve those difficulties where they exist in parading areas.
And have they fallen short in the past?
At times they have. At times they have used language over the last 12 and 18 and 24 months that haven't helped situations.
Have you told them that?
I have told them that.
Face to face?
Privately, face to face, and in other ways as well. But let me give you an example of where we want to go to as a society. We've had a lot of conversations in the last month about closing residential homes, about housing issues, about investing in education, about welfare reform and trying to support poorer families. That's in a context last year at Ardoyne, when it took nearly £1 million to police that parade, or £500,000 to police the Royal Black Parade at Carrickill up to Resharkin, or a band parade in Resharkin that cost £90,000 for a 2-hour parade, or a 50-yard disputed area at White Rock, a parade that took 20 minutes to pass and it cost £170,000.
Right.
Politicians and civic leaders in this society who have an influence have to make a choice about whether they're going to use that constructively to try and find resolution in those areas so that that money can be used more constructively elsewhere.
And here's the point. A lot of those politicians and civic leaders are in Wales this weekend discussing the parading issue with other representatives from the police and academics from the University of Ulster. Would you like to have been there?
Well, they're there to discuss relationships with the police, and very clearly that's the purpose of the meeting. It's certainly the conversations I've had with people. On the agenda. Certainly when I've looked at the letter, that's what the letter was talking about. Parading may be touched on. I'm quite happy that the Commission isn't there. I wouldn't want parading as such to be the focus of that meeting or to get in the way of the conversations. And I wish them well. I think it's a good initiative by the police.
Are you, in a sentence, optimistic that this summer we will be spared some of the difficulties that we had last summer?
Optimistic but realistic. Optimistic because the capacity is there for us to have a better summer than we've had in recent years. But the fact is there's a lot of tension, and the responsibility for moving on rests with those civic leaders, the parade organisers, the protest organisers and others.
OK, we will leave it there. Interesting to hear your thoughts, Peter Osborne. Thank you very much.